Why, hello there, everyone. This is a bit different. This is not a stream, this is not a VOD. I am not on Twitch. Right now, I am sitting at home and just recording a video, and this is a brand new series, tier lists, because I love to share my opinions on the internet very, very much. As you probably may have seen my end credits review of Shrey. If you didn't, please check it out. I think it's quite good. I think. I don't know. The format is to review the game straight after beating it, so I don't know how long that will last. But here, I am going to be reviewing the game. Why did the game? What? Why did it scroll down? Okay, thank you. Um, I am going to be reviewing every single Call of Duty, or at least ranking them, not reviewing them. Just give you my overall thoughts on them, quick thoughts, and then ranking them in the order in terms of how I think. Now, one thing you should know about me, I have been a Call of Duty fan ever since I was like 6, 7, 6, I think. Like ever since I got my PlayStation 2, and quite fittingly, the very first game that I'm going to be talking about is my very first Call of Duty game. I never played, self-explanatory, the ones I have not played ever. Let's get that tier out of the way first. Call of Duty Finest Hour, I never played it. I don't even know on what platforms it's available. I don't even know what type of game it is. I never played it. And this is like that Asian, like free-to-play Call of Duty, right? For the Chinese or whatever. Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified, never played it. I think it was on the PS Vita, I think. I heard that it's very bad. That's the only thing I heard about it. It is very, 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 very bad. Let's see what else. Call of Duty Mobile. I played it, but not much. So because of that, I am going to be putting it at the top of the never played. I have actually played it, but just for a couple of matches. It was fine, but I think I was playing against bots, so maybe that's why I was stomping them fools. And the last one is going to be Roads to Victory. I know nothing about Roads to Victory. I'm going to put it next to Finest Hour. I don't know anything about Roads to Victory. And let's start with the one, and this is very actually fitting. This is not, I did not put this tier list together like this. This is here, exactly like this, as it was. This is the preset for it. Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1. This was my very first Call of Duty, and this one goes straight to B. This one is such an overlooked entry into the series, and that's because it was only released on consoles. You know what? I think I'm going to be actually going through chronologically, not how it is viewed here, because I think it makes sense to go chronologically, but not for this one, because for this I have to talk about Big Red 1 first, because this is the one that started it all for me personally. This was my introduction to the series, and I love it. I think this is such an underrated game, and this is why I'm going to be skipping the first Call of Duty. I'm going to grab this here, and this is what I'm going to do, right next to it. To me, the superior COD 2 is Big Red 1, not the original. If you have not played Big Red 1, please go out of your way and find a way to do it, because if you're a fan of Call of Duty and you have not played Big Red 1, you are missing out. I know that Call of Duty 2, the original one, is like a classic, a beloved, iconic game, whatever. No, Big Red 1. You have to play Big Red 1. There is a massive difference between the two games. One, in the original Call of Duty there are 3 campaigns, 3 shorter campaigns, but overall the two games are about the same length, but Big Red 1 has only 1 campaign, but I think that is one of its biggest strengths, because it focuses on one squad specifically. The atmosphere in the original Call of Duty 2 for World War II is better, but I think Big Red 1 works as it's a series, like, you know, Band of Brothers or The Pacific. Like it is basically like a war series in video game form, whilst the original Call of Duty 2 is like a documentary in video game form. I personally prefer character-driven stories and ones than games that focus on characters and stories that focus on characters more. So that's why I prefer Big Red 1. And maybe it's because of nostalgia, maybe because the original COD 2 actually, I was not a big fan of the original COD 2. I loved the Soviet campaign, but I actually hated the British campaign. And because of that, I stopped playing the original campaign of, no, not the original, but the original game's campaign. I played through COD 1, no problem. United Offensive, no problem. And COD 2, I stopped playing it because I was not enjoying the game. And maybe because because it wasn't Big Red 1, and maybe that's just the difference between the two games that were just so massive. Like, okay, I have my own Call of Duty 2, it's Big Red 1. A year passed, I think, and I was like, okay, you know what? I never finished it. I have to play through it. And then I did, and I was like, what the hell was wrong with me? COD 2 is fantastic, but to me, it's a personal preference. Big Red 1. It's awesome. Big Red 1 is awesome. It's a must play. And the original COD 2 is also fantastic. The multiplayer for both, I have not played the multiplayer of Big Red 1. And for Call of Duty 2, I played the multiplayer a bit, but I wasn't really invested in it. So these two ratings are solely based on the campaigns, so take it with a grain of salt. But let's move on. Let's move back in time. The original COD, first Call of Duty, it goes into C solely because it's the first one. It's really good. I loved it. It's also very hard. Like, it's quite hard because the medic packs, like, or the medic kits, the game is not very forgiving, so it doesn't give you much a lot of medikits, so you have to really pay attention to everything that's happening. But like I said, it's the first one, and it feels like it's the first one, but it's still a solid game. But not much to say really. The characters are not really memorable. The missions are quite basic, run-of-the-mill missions. Nothing like COD 2. Like for COD 2, everything was elevated, and for Big Red 1 was also everything was elevated. COD 1 started it all. It's the granddaddy of them all. It's good. It's solid. I don't hate it. It's pretty good. United Offensive, it's an expansion, goes right next to it. I actually don't remember United Offensive all that much. Like these two games, the original game and the expansion, they just blur into one. I don't really remember United Offensive. I remember liking it, but you know, these two, the first Call of Duty and United Offensive, they are very forgettable for me. They are very forgettable for me. I remember enjoying them whilst playing them, but then I was just like, yeah, I played through them and that was pretty much it. COD 3 C. I heard that the multiplayer is bad. I have not played the multiplayer, and this is the first Call. This is the one of the two Call of Duties I don't own. The campaign, I like the campaign. I think the campaign is really good with the 4 different playable characters. You know, we have the U.S. Army, the French Resistance, or technically it's the British, like the British and the French Resistance working together, and you control a British soldier. The Polish, and then the fourth one. What is the fourth one? Oh yeah, the Canadians. The British campaign has the vehicle sections where you actually control a vehicle. Those sections sometimes are really good, but sometimes they get really annoying. The US Army ones, they have the strongest characters. They are the strongest characters are in the US campaign. The Poles, they have only 2 missions. One was the tank mission, which was fine, and then the other one was you were playing as a foot soldier. And the Canadian, they're also very. The Canadian campaign was also, I think, was quite interesting. And then those two campaigns, the Canadians and the Polish campaigns, they merge into one single mission. Like we have characters from both campaigns showing up in that one mission. That was the third to last mission, I think. I think it was the third to last mission. Once again, take this with a grain of salt. I have not played the multiplayer. Maybe if I did, it would be in a D tier. But because of the campaign, it's going to be in C. But mainly because of what the other games are going to be here. It feels kind of wrong for me to put these 3 together, but I don't want to put these into D. So you know what? Bottom of C, and this one is going to be probably top of C. The next one should be Modern Warfare. The original Modern Warfare. Easy. A. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite Call of Duty game, but it's very high up. Classic. Iconic. Need I say more? I don't think I have to change the game for FPS games and for the Call of Duty franchise. Another game that I loved, World at War. And this one, I don't know. I flip-flop between these two because I absolutely adore World at War, but maybe because of the multiplayer, I'm going to put it below Modern Warfare because I haven't played the multiplayer that much. Because when we first got World at War, I didn't really know much about. We got it on the PS3, so I didn't really know much about online multiplayer, even though I could have played online right away. But I didn't know anything about it. Only like 1 or 2 years later did I find out, oh, you can actually play online on the console. So I miss the glory days of World at War in terms of the multiplayer. But the campaign, it's awesome. And the Nazi zombies reveal for that separate mode, that scared the hell out of me, and I was so scared of playing that game mode. But then eventually I got through it, and that one is hard because there are no perks. The zombies, like the 2 hits and you're done. The ray gun was there, that was awesome. Both campaigns are great in their own rights, and for the longest time I was like, oh, the Soviet campaign is the strongest, excellent missions, Reznov's awesome, the brutality of the Soviet army being portrayed is great. But then as the years went by, I started to appreciate the American campaign as well. The Soviet campaign is stronger because of the characters, because like I said, I prefer character-driven stories. But the American campaign is the more unique in terms of the enemy, because the Japanese used, camouflage tactics or hiding in the trees or the banzai attacks. And the plane mission is awesome. Compared to the tank mission, I prefer the plane mission from the American side than the tank mission from the Soviet side. Maybe if you ask me in a year time, maybe I will swap the two, but because of the multiplayer, because when I did play the multiplayer, there were a lot of cheaters, but then also I don't know, I preferred Modern Warfare's multiplayer overall, I think. So because of the multiplayer. The campaign, that's a toss-up. That is a toss-up. One day I would say the other. One day I would say one, the other day I would say the other. Right now I'm saying Modern Warfare had the overall strongest campaign, but the soundtrack in World at War, that one is. I think World at War has the second best soundtrack. Because I think the strongest is Modern Warfare. And there you go. Modern Warfare 2, I'm going to say it right now. Modern Warfare 2 has my favorite campaign in every Call of Duty game. But it's very close at the top because the next one I'm going to talking about is edging very close to being my favorite campaign and maybe my favorite Call of Duty. But I don't know. For Modern Warfare 2, I was there when the multiplayer was at an all-time high for it. I was there for the trick shotters, for the ninja diffuses, for the occasional cheaters. Fun fact, I never actually reached max rank in Modern Warfare 2 in a legit way. Every single time I got level 70, it was because of a hacked lobby. And I'm like 4th prestige in it, and every single time I've got it because of a hacked lobby. My absolute favorite campaign. I loved it. The no rushing was such a monumental moment in the entire game. Price returning, like I didn't have a connection to Price, so I didn't know who he was, but I immediately understood that, oh, Soap, yeah, they know each other, so there's history between them from the first game. And yeah, there you go, the soundtrack. I think this is my favorite soundtrack as well, and the multiplayer was awesome. Spec Ops was great. The campaign is awesome. The entire game is awesome. And I was very hyped after everything was over. After the game was over, I was so hyped for Modern Warfare 3. That hype is unimaginable. But we're not going to talk about Modern Warfare 3 just yet because the first Black Ops here. For the longest time it was like this for me. Like my best favorite Call of Duty, which we haven't reached yet. We haven't reached yet. Then Modern Warfare 2, then Modern Warfare, and then Black Ops 1. Nope. Over the last few months, I'm appreciating Black Ops more and more. And it's down to the entire story of it. This is not just a good story for Call of Duty. It's a good story for a video game in general. It's so underappreciated. Like if Black Ops was just its separate thing, not a Call of Duty game, I think people would be talking about it on the same level as like a BioShock. Because BioShock is like a cult classic, and when someone says BioShock, you say, oh, you have all the greatest games of all time. If Black Ops was just a separate thing, not a Call of Duty game, Black Ops should be in that conversation as well. It's such a good campaign. It's such a good story. But for me, the multiplayer drags it down. It's not the strongest multiplayer. I actually don't really. I like the multiplayer overall, but the campaign is what takes this game for me to the highest, to a higher level. Not the multiplayer. The multiplayer actually drags it down a bit. The party games were fine. The maps were good. The weapons were good. The credit system, I don't like the credit system in it. That's the one thing. I don't like the credit system. I want a natural progression. I level up, you give me the weapons. That's what I like. I don't really like the credit system. The customization was like there was a slight customization in it, but it was very bare bones. Like they didn't want to overdo it, but they didn't do anything with it. I think the multiplayer was a bit of a step back compared to Modern Warfare 2. But the story, the campaign, it's awesome. It's one of the strongest campaigns. It's definitely my second favorite campaign now. Modern Warfare 3. Jesus freaking Christ, B. I love the campaign. The campaign is awesome. And that's about it. The multiplayer is fine. This Modern Warfare 3 exists solely to just finish the story. The multiplayer is just more of Modern Warfare 2 but less good. And the maps were not as memorable, not as good. The soundtrack is... I don't even remember the soundtrack. The characters, awesome. Delta Force, they are awesome, but then again, I think the Delta Force shouldn't even be in the game. It should have been the Rangers. Where were the Rangers in this game? I think it should have been the Rangers, not a new... The Rangers are not in this game. Why? Where are the Rangers? They don't even get mentioned. They don't even make a cameo. The Rangers got shafted. The Rangers are iconic in Modern Warfare 2, and for Modern Warfare 3 they just forgot to add them. I don't know why. It's easily the weakest of the Modern Warfare games. The campaign, I love the campaign. I think I actually love the campaign for this one more than the first Modern Warfare. Maybe mainly because it's just the conclusion, and the conclusion was so satisfying. Like, it is a satisfying conclusion to the trilogy, but I don't think it's as good as it could have been, the overall game and also the campaign. Like, I love the Delta Force, I love Sandman, Trug, Grange, I love them. So that's the only thing, like, I don't mind them being there because they are good characters, the missions are fun. But the same thing could have been achieved with the Rangers. I think the Rangers should have been in the game. The multiplayer was also, it's fun. It was fun, but it was more of the same. This is where it was like very evident with Modern Warfare 3, where it's like, okay, maybe Call of Duty is running out of ideas now because it's just more of the same, really. But to me, this was still enough. I loved the campaign. The campaign was fire. The multiplayer was good. Spec Ops, it wasn't as good as in Modern Warfare 2. I actually never finished Modern Warfare 3's Spec Ops. I actually played the survival mode more than the Spec Ops. I overall enjoyed the survival mode, and I think I might be the only person ever to say that, but I actually enjoyed the survival mode. But now we arrive to Black Ops 2. Here we go. When this was announced, I was hyped, and I didn't know what to expect. When that trailer hit and that certain character showed up, I was like, what on earth is happening? And then it was in the future, and I remember people hating the idea that this was in the future. But I was like, wait for it, the trailer is good. Every trailer is good for the game. The gameplay looked awesome. Just wait for it because maybe it's going to be good. A lot of people were like, oh, it's in the future. This is not Call of Duty anymore. And ah, this when it came out, this is exactly what I needed from Call of Duty, and because of that, it remains my favorite Call of Duty game. Holy hell, this is exactly what the series needed. In 2012, after Modern Warfare 3, this, Black Ops 2, perfect. This is what was needed. The campaign brought in multiple branching storylines. Multiple choices, and you can replay the campaign and not experience the same thing. Overall, the loadout system was great. The extra perk that gave you extra information during the campaign, or extra weapons at the store in the missions, was a fantastic idea. The strike missions, I actually liked the strike missions, and they also played a huge role in the overall outcome of the story. Like, if you want to have the good ending, you have to complete the strike missions, and I think they were great. I loved them. No, not loved them, I liked them. I think this was a good continuation of the Black Ops storyline, but it's a bit of a duality with the campaign. This being my favorite Call of Duty game is not down to the campaign. The campaign, for me personally, I don't think it's even top 5. I don't think it's top 5. I think it's 6. Because the campaign, if there is one Call of Duty game that is desperately in need of a remaster, for the campaign at least, it's Black Ops 2. Lots of technical faults, animation errors, and the storyline is good. Like, I like the campaign, and Raul Menendez is fantastic as a villain, and the AI is awful. The AI, this is the only Call of Duty where I can say that the AI is straight up garbage. I don't know what happened, but they messed up with the AI very badly. They either don't see cover, or they just don't see you at all. They ignore you. The AI was bad. The AI was very bad. But the multiplayer, and that is why this is my favorite Call of Duty game. I think this was the most balanced multiplayer. To me, balance is very, very important. And Black Ops 2 struck that balance perfectly. I know the shock charge bouncing when the combo was a bit overpowered. The shotgun was a bit overpowered. But I don't think strong equals overpowered. Like, I think a pump action shotgun from point blank range should one hit you. Like, that should be a thing that it just happens. Every weapon was viable. Snipers, LMGs, the shotguns, the assault rifles, submachine guns. Everything was viable. The knife, what is that called? The one where you like shoot out the knife, that was also a viable weapon. For Black Ops 1, I didn't mention the zombies. The zombies was, I think Black Ops 1 has the strongest zombies. Black Ops 2, once again, the duality. I don't think that is overall good zombies. Because of the lava and transit, I think it just drags it down so much. The lava was very annoying. And the maps themselves, there weren't a lot of maps. There were lots of DLC maps, and I didn't buy any of the DLCs. I only have Revolution, but that's because they gave it for free. Buried was awesome. That was a really good map. The 4v4 mode was a bit was interesting, but sometimes it just dragged on